Hi, I am Nikki, and you are listening to the EduLEADER podcast. This is a place to celebrate fantastic educators. This is a place teachers can go to learn about amazing things happening outside their classroom. Hi, you are listening to a special episode of the EduLEADER podcast with Nikki Hyman. I am very excited today to introduce our guest. He is a national speaker and thought leader in the world of education. He is incredible. He has such insight into what makes a great school work, and he is coming to Kansas in February, which is the most exciting thing. So without wasting any more time, let's get right to our conversation with Hal Bowman, founder of Teach Like a Rockstar.
Let's get this thing going. Let me help me figure this out, because you and I have talked a number of times, and I'm trying to think back. How did we meet? Like, how did that happen?
I think we're both in that principals leadership group on Facebook.
Yeah.
And I saw some of the things that you posted, and I just thought it was really cool. And I thought, I want to talk to that guy.
Yeah.
So I reached out to you, and you're super nice. So
hey, how cool is that group, though?
I love that group.
Right.
So much valuable content shared by people in there.
Like, if there is an aspiring administrator or a young administrator anywhere and they're not in there participating, you've got to be crazy. Like, from anything from, hey, I need a really cool open house letter, or how do you guys do an activity schedule for sixth grade middle school only? Or, you know, we had a fourth grader show up with inappropriate content on a cell phone. How do y'all handle that? I mean, it's amazing. And there's like 30 responses on different ideas.
And fast, too.
Yeah.
You post something, and within minutes, you've got tons of responses.
All right. Now, that's the part that I find a little bit disconcerting, because it's 10 a.m. Like, aren't you people working? Like,
right.
Don't you have a job? Like, what are you doing on Facebook, man?
But aren't there like 15,000 people in the group or something?
Yeah, I think it's close to 20 now. It's crazy. But but that's the, you know, man, there's so much I hate about social media, but like stuff like that is a life changer.
Yeah.
And here is
networking and.
All right, so here's a small world. So Stephanie McConnell runs that thing, right? And I am friends and personally and professionally with this guy named Morris Lyon, and he is a superintendent. We've known each other for years, and I spoke for him in his district in a tiny town in Texas. And then he moved to a new town, and he's past president of the Texas Rural Education Association, which is a group of superintendents that lobby at the state level for tiny districts. And and for tiny districts like that, man, it's hard to do great professional development. So I said, let me do like a free one where I'll do it at your district. We invite all those tiny schools around you. Meanwhile, I'm in this group, and I find out that Stephanie is the principal of the elementary school in the district where my friend Morris is the superintendent, where I'm going to go do this free deal. Talk about a tiny, like, that's such a small world.
That's cool. That's what I love about that social networking, just to see the things. And then it's so funny how often that happens when you realize, oh, wait a minute, I actually know you in real life. Like, I've admired you from afar, but this is really cool that we have a real life connection.
Yeah. And here's what I've discovered. Anybody you think is cool on there, I think this might be unique to that group or closed groups. But if I find somebody, I think, man, they seem pretty cool. Like, I meet them in person, or we chat, they're like even cooler than what I thought they were.
Yeah.
I love it.
That's my favorite one for leadership. I haven't found one that really is that good for some other things. So if there's other ones available for like instructional coaching or something like that, I would love to know about it.
Yeah, it is interesting that for some reason that is just, man, you know what it is? It's a great combination of people that are inspired and they want to serve and help, but at the same time, I can tell that for lots of people, it's really important they keep it like a positive tone. I see some people come in with some really like edgy, you know, kind of negativity, and like people want them out, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. The stuff that really people want to talk about is the hard work that goes into leadership and the heart that it takes to really do a good job in school leadership. And I think that's part of what makes it so valuable.
And lately, man, for you, that's been like your professional passion, this whole leadership thing. How did you get into that? Like, how did you make the switch from, starting out in the classroom and all that, and then getting to where you are now?
Well, it was not really on purpose. I just sort of fell into it. I was a special education teacher before, like K-12, small schools in Kansas. And I also have a son with Down syndrome. So mom advocate and also teacher advocate.
Hey, can I ask a question right there?
Sure.
Which came first, the child or the interest?
Well, I graduated college in 2 years. So I was super young. And I had a bachelor's in education.
You and I were on a different program. We were involved in very different extracurricular activities.
Yeah, I don't know that was the best path to get through that fast because I still wasn't quite sure exactly what my career path should be. But then decided to take some time off from teaching and got married, had a baby. Baby had Down syndrome. And then I immediately knew, oh my gosh, I have a degree in education and I don't know the best way to help him be successful. And so I'm from multi-generations of teachers. And so I think the natural teacher response is if I don't know the answer to something, I'm going to take a class and figure it out. And so I ended up getting my master's in K-12 adaptive special education and realized I still don't know the answers. So just kept advocating and searching and finding things on my own that would help not only Trenton, but also my students. And then over time, people were asking me to share, and I really liked sharing and helping other teachers. Yeah. And so I thought originally I'll just go back to school and get my admin degree and maybe be a special education teacher or a principal. And I finished that in May. And then this job came along with this service center, Greenbush in Kansas. And I absolutely love it. It's what I get to do is just help teachers every day. Just help support teachers do what they love. And I get to work with the teachers that are doing the hard stuff and wanting to learn and do better. And I get to connect them and I get to talk to them. And it's a really cool job, but not one that I ever really set out to do intentionally.
Yeah. Hey, with your master's degree in special education, when you went into that program, you were thinking, okay, I'm going to learn I'm about to have a master's in special ed. I'm about to learn a ton. Mm-hmm. So of all this stuff that you know now, and just like take a guesstimate, like your personal library that you have in your head, your inventory of knowledge, what percent would you say is from that degree program? 5, 10, 20, 50?
Yeah, like very little.
Yeah.
Maybe 5. Where to find the resources was kind of probably the most valuable part.
Sure.
Like where to look to find the answers, but the answers were not there.
For me, when I worked on my master's in school leadership, and it became very apparent to me as I did the whole thing where I was asking around, where did you go to school? What did y'all do? What was it like? How hard was it? And what I realized, there were some people that had these really rigorous programs, and some of them had what was like dinner club, where they meet once or twice a week and they just have dinner together from 6 to 9 and talk about the chapter, and that's about it, and everybody gets an A. And of all those people that I interviewed, it seemed to me that they all felt equally ill-prepared and equally ill-equipped and just not knowledgeable. So I thought, let me just get the cheapest, easiest program I can find. If I want to come out of this thing not knowing anything, let me go with that route. Because what they told me is they all learn from mentors and experiences and asking for help. And of course, it's like pre-interweb. And so, I just, for my master's program, I kind of went into it knowing I'm probably going to get very little out of this deal. So let's just have a spaghetti potluck twice a week and get an A.
That is a brilliant strategy. It really is.
But of course, immediately after, I think I was in my first interview for like an assistant principal's position, and I was about 10 minutes into that thing. I'm thinking, I have no business being an assistant principal. I would be like the worst. And so I kindly shut down the interview and said, you know what? On second thought, let's not kid ourselves. This ain't for me, man.
Are you serious?
Yeah. I couldn't picture. They're asking me the questions. And it was becoming like real. Like, I'm going to have to dish out some discipline and yell at people. And oh my God, just not my thing. Well, can you get somebody else to do all that? And like, I'll be the happy guy. Well, play games in the hallway, maybe. Do you have a program? Is there a position for that?
That's funny. So you eventually did, though, get
I finished all that stuff. I just never did the job. And, which it puts me in an interesting position, because what I've been able to do is just hang out with, I don't even know, like hundreds upon hundreds of really amazing principals. Like, I hung out with 2 of them today, just seeing what they do and watching how they work, and which has allowed me to really look at challenges that schools have in a very objective, non-emotional way, where I can be really creative and resourceful based on all of these experiences I've seen across the nation, rather than, being in a situation where, this is what I see all the time, is there'll be a principal with a huge challenge in front of them, and we're just stuck. And this is just the way it is. We just have to handle it. This is what it is. And they're caught up in that emotion and that belief, and in their mind, which now makes it true, this is what it is. But I'm telling you, I've seen many people solve the same problem when it was a lot worse in their school. So I don't know. I think just because of a lack of, in a weird way, like a lack of experiences, that helped me to be more creative and solution minded, if that makes sense.
That makes total sense. I often share this. It's a TED Talk, and it's about design thinking. And this lady shares that she is deaf, and she was able to design this. It's like an eyepiece for she liked to do woodworking, but she couldn't hear when the machine was stuck on something, and so that was causing a safety problem for her. So she designed these glasses that would light up when there was some sort of drag or something on the wood when she was using the machinery. And she said it was her lack of experience that led her to that invention, because experienced woodworkers know that it feels different when they push the wood through the equipment, but she didn't know that. So her lack of experience actually was gave her the opportunity to have like broader problem solving ability.
Yeah.
So I think that's exactly what you were talking about.
Yeah, I love it.
Not exactly, but sort of.
There's this saying that we use that in our business just about every day somewhere, and that is, you can't read the label from inside the bottle. And that's to say, like, when you're in the emotion and you're stuck in this challenge, because you're in it, it's really hard to see the solution. But those of us that are looking outside, they're not emotionally connected to it or tied to it, it's really easy for us to see that we can read the label. It's right there. It's no different than like if you're in a classroom and you're a teacher and you're frustrated out of like how easy it is. I mean, how easy for every teacher to walk down the hallway. You can take one look into another teacher's classroom and you can see exactly what the problem is. Because you don't know any of the stories, you don't know the backstory, you don't know why they're mad for the last 6 weeks about this one thing they haven't let go of. I don't know any of that, so I can look in. Oh, here's what you got to do. It's easy because I'm not in the emotion, and I think that is one of a few reasons why I've been, somewhat okay at helping principals find solutions to really complex challenges.
I think you've been more than somewhat okay.
I don't know. But here's the other thing is, the other thing is is because I've become so intolerant, because I see the most challenging schools and demographics doing amazing stuff. Like I've seen schools on the Mexican border, Texas-Mexico border they got like a chalkboard. No computer. They got broken windows. They don't have a copy machine, and they're sending kids to college. And so when I show up in some suburban district and some teacher's complaining because no one charged the iCart and the Bluetooth isn't hooking up, I'm I just don't have patience or tolerance to hear it, you know?
I love, and I think that sometimes having fewer, not that having fewer resources is good, but sometimes that allows for more creativity in problem solving.
Yep.
There is on my bucket list, there is a school in Peru. The director was in she got her PhD from KU. It's Dr. Liliana Mayo, I think is how you pronounce her name. And she runs a school and it's all for kids with disabilities in Peru, and total third world country, extreme poverty. And they do the neatest things. Like they bring whole families in to teach the families how to support their child with a disability. And they have them, like some of these kids are graduating and getting jobs within the government and going on and owning their own business. And this is, in a country where that's most definitely not the norm. So these kids with disabilities are graduating from the school and achieving more than their peers without disabilities. Yeah. And I just think it's fascinating to see the problem solving that comes from pressures like that.
Yeah. I tell you, here's a first world example is, in here, like you guys do, snowstorms, right? We do hurricanes.
Yes, we do them. Yeah.
Tell me the name of your snowstorm. What was the name of it again?
It was Bruce.
Bruce. Come on.
We had 12 inches of snow and 45-mile-an-hour winds. It was awful.
I don't even want to hear just the name Bruce. It's not intimidating. Like we had a Hurricane Harvey.
Okay, that's way worse.
Lee Harvey Oswald. Okay, like Harvey Weinstein. I mean, these are some horrible characters. All right, now so Hurricane Harvey hits right along the Gulf Coast. Schools are decimated, right? Mm-hmm. And we have schools meeting in, like shopping centers that have a vacancy. They have a space open, so a class meets in there. We have multiple grades, and they put in a hallway at a high school because the middle school flooded. They have a basement of a church is hosting school, because to this day, this is over a year later. And so I go to a school in it was Viter Middle School, and I can't even, it's so overcrowded. And they're meeting at the high school, and we have like two classes in one classroom. And these are mm-hmm. old desks, like small classrooms with those old big desks, you know what I'm talking about? So there's no, like kids have to climb over. You're not leaving the room. Once you're in the room, you stay because you can't get out. Like you have to climb over desks to get out. Two teachers in every room, they're packed. And and nothing works, and here's the thing. When you have, it's not going to get better. Technology's not coming. New furniture. We're not going to have more space. We're not going to have a new room. Nothing is going to change. When you're put in that position, only one thing can change, and that's people, and like relationships, and strategy, and ideas, and creativity. That's the only thing and because of that, scores are up. They missed weeks of school, and test scores are up anyway. It's amazing how well some of those schools did simply because they had nothing except each other to improve.
We actually had the opportunity to also go down to Houston after the hurricane. I don't know if I shared this story with you or not. My 12-year-old daughter, every year for Christmas, she likes to do some sort of project to help somebody else. And she has her best friend that they do all these things together. And last year, they saw this happening on the news and they wanted to do something to help. And we had a couple family connections down in the Houston area. And so we adopted a preschool teacher. And my daughter and her friend they did concession stands at soccer tournaments to raise money, and they contacted high schools and groups at local high schools like FCA and stuff like that to make preschool activities to bring down to this preschool teacher and to raise money for them. And we were able to deliver all that stuff in January down, and we took a mad trip. Like we pulled the kids out of school on Friday. We drove all day. I think it's like a 12-hour drive. Yeah. And we had this like huge conversion van with 4 kids, and it was like packed all the way up to the top with stuff for this teacher. And the teacher lost everything in her home, everything in her classroom. She'd been teaching for 30 years. And it was really eye-opening for the kids to see the mass destruction. Because when we got there, the place that we stayed, it had just been cleared like the week before. It was that fresh, and it was January. But that attitude in those relationships was something that we just were really amazed by, that it was that, pull yourself up. We've still got each other, and we're going to make the best of this awful situation. It was incredible.
Yeah. It's hard to talk about because I hate that it happened at the same time. I don't think, I know for sure I've never seen more beautiful examples of humanity and hope and compassion and caring and just freaking just work ethic and, determination as a result of that storm.
Yeah.
And you know what it is, man? It's like the ultimate humbler. Like, it puts everybody on a level playing field. It doesn't matter age, race, how much money you have. When all those dudes from New Orleans and all over Louisiana came, the Cajun Navy brought their bass boats, thousands of them, in a line to drive around neighborhoods and save people. People coming out of trailers, apartment complexes, $1 million mansions, all in the same boat, holding on to each other. It's beautiful.
I think what's so cool about what you do and what you talk about with culture and being a mentor for people is what you're talking about is just don't wait for something tragic to happen. Like, do all these things before something bad happens. Just make that part of your daily practice. And that's why I really enjoy listening to your videos and your podcasts, because that's what you're all about. And I think that's what we need in education.
I think it's true. And working that into the classroom. I've taught a lot of stuff, man. I was a band director. That's where I started. And I taught, English and reading and language arts. And I taught biology. Well, I wouldn't call it teaching, but I sponsored a biology class. And then, I did all this stuff. But no matter what I was teaching in that same thing, like that, it was always the same thing where I wanted to use that classroom in such a way so the content was just going to be the vehicle to, the content was just going to be the vehicle to improve the lives of these kids and show them what this whole thing is really all about, which is helping other people. Which, that like the event we're going to do for you, that's really what the whole thing is about. Like, the whole first 2 hours is trying to, psychologically and emotionally help teachers dig down deep and access what's the real lesson here. Like, man, like you teach like world geography AP, right? You teach, WAP and well, that's awesome. But guess what? That kid has access to every bit of that information on his cell phone. So with that in mind, what can we teach this kid that he can't access on his cell phone? Like, what's the real lesson you want this kid to talk about 30 years from now? And to do that, man, like, kids have to feel it, like feel what we're trying to teach them. And so, I was always doing projects with my kids. We would do Best Week Ever, where with my kids, we would, might be in biology class, but we would break the class up into 5 groups, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Take the last 15 minutes on a Friday. We would pick a random person in school. We don't even know. We just pick one out of the yearbook. All right. Next week, it's going to be the best week ever for that person. Could be a janitor, could be a kid, could be a secretary, teacher, doesn't matter. Monday, put together an event for Monday. Go make it happen on Monday. Do something amazing for that person. Tuesday, you got to follow it up, man. Monday's going to be big. Tuesday, you got to be even bigger. And Wednesday, Friday, you're the big finale. Do something awesome. And so I would tell the kids, I would say, listen, we have to keep this thing a secret. They're never going to know it was us. And like what I would tell them, I would say, if they find out it was us, listen, they'll remember for a long time. But if they never knew it was us, they're gonna remember. They'll remember for the rest of their lives. Now, I don't know if that's true. Probably not. But that doesn't matter. Like, the whole point was I wanted them to do it anonymously because I want them to feel what it's like not to expect anything in return. Like, just go make an impact. And I want them to feel that without knowing they're not going to get a thank you or to be recognized or celebrated in any way. And you know what? For some weird reason, we learned a whole bunch of biology that way. Because the kids were engaged, man. We're in the family now.
Yeah. You built that trust and that relationship that's just that unbreakable bond with the kids. And it's not about the empty compliments. That's like truly deep caring and relationship. Those are the skills that are going to take them places their whole life.
Yeah. And you know what? They might not be experts when it comes to mitosis or whatever it was. I don't remember. But man, we became experts at making a difference in the lives of other people.
Mm-hmm. We've talked about that a lot in the teacher leader cadre. And I wasn't sure what the teacher leader cadre was going to look like through when I started. It was kind of like, we have this great group of teachers and lots of things that we could talk about and cover throughout the year, but what it looks like is kind of up to you. And so I started doing research on, what is it that we need? What's the biggest barrier for successful schools? And I think there's so much put on people that we worry about. We worry about test scores. We worry about truancy. We worry about like all these checklist things, and that weighs us down. And I think when we change the conversation and we're really talking about reaching out and supporting each other, and it's supporting each other teacher to teacher as well as teacher to student, then that's bucket filling, and the checklists don't seem as overwhelming and heavy on us. Does that?
Yeah, and you know what, man? There's like so much evidence of that everywhere. Where just this simple. Here's the first thing. There's so much to unpack there. Here's the first one. When I go to schools and I stand before the district, like do the back to school convocation thing. Those districts that are killing it in terms of test scores. First the superintendent comes out and he talks. That dude or woman, they don't say a single word about test scores, and people in their mind think, well, of course they don't have to talk about test scores. They're killing it. But here's the reason they're killing it is because they don't focus on test scores. Like it's they're on the next level, man. Like they have it so reversed. And the difference is in the classroom when we're focused on all that paperwork, when that's the focus of our job is, the content and the paperwork and how we're going to deliver this thing and all that. Well, now we're in the grind. But when we're focused on making a difference in a life, solely there for one reason, is to make a difference in the lives of these kids, and that's the passion, well, the grind will always wear down. A grind will always wear out and get exhausted, but passion doesn't do that. Passion never gets exhausted. There's some times that we have to be reignited and refocus on the passion. We get refueled back up. That's why that happens. Mm-hmm. And, but so many times when I go to schools, they're where they're just beaten down, they're tired, and just you're at the limit where you feel like you're going to break down. That's all they're talking about, and they haven't taken a moment to talk about why we're there and what we really want for our kids, and why these kids in this school in this town. Like we could teach anywhere. Why are we here for these kids? And once you get refocused on that, man, you can just see, you can feel it in the room. Everything changes.
And you said something when you zoomed in for my group in September that has been brought up multiple times since then. And I can't remember exactly what you said, but it was something about focusing on reaching out to each other first before you really change the conversation to why we're here for the kids. And that was so impactful. And I was thinking about that just the other day. I have some family that is sick. My dad has cancer, and I've shared that with my coworkers. And Greenbush does a really good job of that is just part of our culture that we care about each other. Yeah. And I sent one of my coworkers a text saying, I had a question, call me when you get a chance. And his first response back is, oh my gosh, is everything okay? And I was like, yeah. But the first concern was, did something happen with my family? Can he help me with that? It wasn't, what do I need? And to me, that's just a habit that I would love to see in every school. I think if we all just have that habit of reaching out to each other,
Yep.
then there will be joy in the classrooms.
You know, I'll tell you where that really made sense to me was my buddy Rob Carroll at the 1199 in Henderson, Kentucky, which is an amazing story. He did a TED Talk. He's a principal there, and it's a beautiful story. And I've been there a few times and met his teachers and still friends with them. And they've had incredible success as a turnaround school, and now they present at Disney every year. You know, they're just phenomenal. And I don't know if he would say this publicly, so I might be overstepping here. But I believe one of the reasons they've been so successful is because that's what they like. Their focus really is this demographic is so hard. Our job is so hard. What's expected of us by the state with these kids in this community, and the challenges that we're all up against. If we're focused individually on our 30 students, we're not going to make it. But if we focus on each other first as a family, as a teacher, school, family. And we collectively together, we go and impact those kids with our entire school teacher family. That's when we can have an exponential impact. And I really believe that's one of the few reasons why they've been so incredibly successful for so long now. I mean, it just makes sense.
Yeah, I think if you think back to any job you've had in any industry, even if it's, before you get your teaching credentials, like, where did you have fun? Where did you feel like you were what was bucket filling?
Yeah.
You'll think back, and the first thing that'll come to your mind is those organizations that support you as a person. Yep. First, and then you felt like, oh my gosh, I am empowered to make a difference and I can do these things. And I think that has been so impactful for the teacher leader cadre, and they're so excited to bring groups of people to come in and listen to your talk in February.
Yeah.
Because that was a huge takeaway in September.
Just looking back, a friend I used to teach with, and we still keep in touch, her name is Jamie Cunningham, and we did a program called PALS together, which is a mentoring program. We had all seniors, and we would go mentor kids at 3 or 4 different elementary schools where each one of our senior pals would get a kid at each one of these schools, and we'd have class at that elementary school. That's your buddy. You got, the next 30 weeks, you got one assignment, go change that kid's life. And within this group, we always talk about how those years were like the most fun we've ever had professionally. And one was because of the work we were doing, but also we had such an amazing culture in that school. When I first got to this school and I accepted I showed up to teach there, and I just got certified in biology. I never even took a biology class, but I passed the test, right, with a 71. So I figured, let me go teach this thing. And they had an opening, so I went there and applied for the job. And he said, let me think about it, the principal. So I went out and sat in the hallway. And he came, what are you doing? I said, I'm letting you think about it. I'm not going home. You might have a question. And so anyway, I got hired there. But you know what? The next day, and I got this beautiful package in the mail from the school with like a school-colored teddy bear and all kinds of stuff. Welcome to the school. And my wife, she was pregnant, and they had a baby shower for me. Like, I don't even, it was bizarre. Then she had a baby. We got another thing of flowers at the house. It was just amazing. And this is a huge high school with hundreds of teachers, and, but when we look back, it was just, we had the most, like, I couldn't wait to get to school. There's so many like practical jokes teachers are playing on each other. I mean, it was just nonstop fun. And as a result, our scores were ridiculous high.
I'm sure. I have a question for you.
Yeah.
So you travel all over the United States doing these presentations. Mm-hmm. So when you're at a school that is killing it with culture, that they're doing all those things you're talking about, do you also have conversations about teacher shortages in those same schools, or is that way less? Yeah.
Yeah, they're not leaving.
Yeah, we have a huge teacher shortage problem in Kansas, and I hate that because I've got kids of my own in schools in Kansas. I want to have the very best of the best teachers in Kansas, and it breaks my heart that teachers are leaving the profession. And so I do a lot of research on how to fix this, and it always comes back to culture.
Yeah, you know why? jobs, not only are jobs easy to quit, they're fun to quit. Quitting a job is awesome. It feels fantastic. Quitting a family, that's painful, man. Like, you can't.
Absolutely.
And so, yeah, sure we have a teacher shortage, but not at these schools. They're like, I think they're plotting assassination attempts on teachers trying to get in there. Like, they're waiting for somebody to die, right? And yeah, no, they don't have a problem with that. Yeah. So and that's the other thing is, it really is interesting because once the culture is created and they have the family and they feel it, I'm not saying it's easy, but it's way easier to get the right person in that job because now people know, and they're not. It's almost as if you got to know somebody to get in. You got to be friends with somebody. You got to be like already somehow in the family to get hired. Because they know exactly who would be perfect for that 4th grade spot or that 8th grade science spot. Oh, I know somebody. And it's always amazing to me how a lot of these schools aren't even the highest paying district. Because in Texas, it's not like a county system. You might have 15 school districts in the same county, and they all pay different. And people will take a massive cut to go teach at these schools just because it's amazing. It's so rewarding.
Wow. So what does your day look like when you talk about school culture? Like, how do you talk about that? What are some of the strategies that you'll share?
All right. So, first of all, this is, so there's a lot that goes into this. And by the way, it took me a long time. I'm still figuring this out. I've been doing it for 10 years. But the number one thing is I'm going to model exactly what I hope to see teachers do in the classroom. But I never say that. I'm just doing it. And in addition to that, I think teachers, I almost said just like kids, but I think they're worse than kids, is that you can't tell them what to do. Like, I can't tell a teacher what to do and how to do it because they're immediately going to think, well, he doesn't have LaShondra in his front row because she wouldn't, or he doesn't have my kids, or he doesn't know, there's always, or if I tell them what to do and they actually try it, but it doesn't work, well, that discounts everything else I said the entire day. Or if I tell them what to do, they do it and it actually worked, it ain't going to work the second time. And now that discounts everything else I said. And now like, I'm an idiot. I don't know what I'm talking about. So what I do is I present this thing in such a way where I'm using stories and anecdotes and emotion and modeling what things look like and kind of role playing in such a way that I'm going to plant a seed in the teacher's mind where they're going to have a thought. You know what I'm going to try? Here's what I'm going to do with that kid. And now it's their idea. I never said to do it, but I planted the seed in such a way that was emotionally inspiring where they're going to give a kid another chance and decide right now, I'm not giving up on that kid this year. That's going to be my project. All because of something they felt rather than something they logically thought through.
I love it.
Which is the same thing for teaching kids, man. Right? That's why they do remember stuff, is because of how they feel, not because of, well, man, that makes damn good sense. I think I'll retain that information for the rest of my life. Thank you for that Pythagorean theorem.
Mitosis forever. Got it.
Locked in. All right. Yeah, and then, but that's really the whole thing. In fact, I booked one today. I'm going to go to Missouri, and everybody calls and they want the, hey, can you come do a 45-minute keynote, or in this case it was a 2-hour thing. I said, well, listen, here's what we're going to do. I'll do the 2-hour thing, but right now you and I are going to talk. I want to do everything I can to talk you into a full day. It's that important. The same price, the same everything. I'm coming anyway. But I think teachers want some time in their classroom. Yeah, I know. Okay, we all want time in their class. I promise you. Because what I tell them is, look, man, I can make a list. Okay, here's what you do and how you do it. I can get through that in about 5 minutes. But in order for me to deliver information on an emotional level where a teacher's going to go back on Monday morning and do something completely different, unlike they've ever done before, and they're not going to give up, that takes like an emotional roller coaster. Like, that takes some time. A full day.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think that when you have the kind of presentation that you're talking about that is like emotionally engaging and emotionally riveting, you don't have anybody who's thinking, I really wish I was grading papers right now.
Listen, man, they bring their papers. I see their bag. I see your little magazines. I see your cheesy cracker snack you're thinking of pull out. I know, like, you know, I see your cell phone, like, but they soon realize that it is like I have to do this in such an emotional, funny way that all that they realize is that they don't even think about it, you know. And listen, like this whole thing, I've sat in the back row. I've texted my wife, I think I'm going to die. Tell Dave he can have all my fishing equipment. You know, it's horrible. So, like, I've been through it, man, and I know people are leery, you know, and like that's one of the reasons we came with the whole Teach Like a Rockstar thing. It has nothing to do with any, like, it's just a cool title. I just want people to think this is different. I don't know what he's going to talk about, but it's got to be good. You know, I can't do another, you know, differentiation strategies in a mixed whatever classroom. I can't sit through any of that.
So you didn't want to name it like rigorous something? You didn't want to like include the word rigor anywhere?
I don't want rigor. I don't want an apple in the logo. I don't want the A as an A+ in the title. I don't want any of that. Yeah. And by the way, getting the rigor thing, that has been like the hot topic for me. That is one of those things that, like, to this day, it just drives me crazy to hear people talk about that. Like, what are you telling me? One of the things we're going to do for a struggling kid is to make this more rigorous. The kid that's already hates being here, he already is checked out. Doesn't he want to try? I'll tell you what. Hey, I got an idea. Let's make it even harder.
Right. Brilliant plan.
Right. But the funny thing is, like, all the stuff we come up with, you know what it's for? It's for teachers when they were students. Like the normal teacher, the average teacher would have loved it. Ooh, this class is going to be more rigorous. Awesome. And that's why they're teachers. But for like the 98% of normal people, because teachers aren't normal, but for a normal kid grinding it out in the classroom, you know, some of the things we come up with, it just don't make sense in the mind of that kid.
Yeah, I was the kid that the teacher could be up there talking and I would have a book open in the desk and I'd be reading my book and I knew that I would get by passing the test. But I do some trainings on project-based learning, and that is where the rigor comes. But it's student voice and choice, and it's built on those relationships first, but it's also incredibly rigorous. So, I think it's going to be a really fun day, and I'm really excited. And I told you, my mom she's planning on coming,
which is cool. You better put Mama in the front row.
I'll introduce you to Mom.
I'll give her some love.
And our other location, we have a lady who is about to give birth anytime, and she can't wait to go to your presentation.
All right, listen, I need to talk to her, because at the end, it's a big ending to this thing. It's real emotional. If she could push that baby out, like right there at the very end, I could tie it all in together. I'll hold the baby up in the air. We could cheer and cry and pass it around, and she could name it Harold Melville Bowman V.
That sounds like a beautiful birth story. I'm not sure she's going to go for it, but
hey, you know, not to bash on the thing on the rigor thing, but here's the deal. You're right. When kids are, it's that relationship. Like the deeper the relationship, that there's a direct correlation with the amount of rigor we can ask of them. Like if I have an incredibly deep relationship with a kid and we're incredibly connected, now I've earned the right in the mind of the kid to an incredibly rigorous classroom with insanely high expectations.
Right, because rigor isn't adding 50 questions to the end of your final assessment. Rigor is the complexity of
deep.
The student's answer. Yeah,
the depth and the breadth and of thought and but you know at the same time is I was just talking about this with the principal today. You know, we that's the challenge of it. Like that's the art of teaching. How do we provide that for a kid in a traditional classroom? Like we have so much content to deliver and like you hit upon something the kid is passionate about and asking questions, and you're like, hey man, that's awesome, but we got to move on. Thanks for your interest, but we got more stuff to cover. Yeah, end of the semester's coming up. You know what I mean?
We're on a timeline. We got to go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the challenge of it, and that's where the work comes in, and the time and the passion to make sure we provide that kid that we saw like the spark in his eye and the kid lit up, and like in how do we provide that kid with the resources and time and to go dig.
I'm a big fan of Brene Brown's work. Have you listened to her TED Talk or her audiobooks or anything?
I'm a man, okay? So yeah, I get a little girly with Brene for sure.
I love her. Have you listened to her podcast with Dax Shepard?
I have not.
It was great.
Really?
It was very, very good. Yes. Yeah.
What's he from?
So Dax Shepard,
Jackass,
he's on
right?
all kinds of stuff.
Original?
Maybe. Yeah, I know he's on some Netflix show with Ashton Kutcher, The Ranch, maybe.
They're friends.
Yeah, he's married to Kristen Bell.
I've seen her little thing with Ellen, and what did she have, like a little animal she likes or something?
I don't know. She's so cute.
I think they're faking it. People aren't that happy or that cute. I think it's an act. They're actors. You can't trust them.
It has to be.
Yeah.
For sure. Anyway, the relationship and the rigor. She talks a lot about vulnerability and shame. And I think so many of our kids are dealing and wrestling with vulnerability and shame of what if I get the wrong answer? And once you have that relationship built with them and they're comfortable with you, that fear of failure is no longer paralyzing for them. And then you can dig deeper with them and you can get those more rigorous responses and higher test scores because they're no longer feeling that.
Here's what's cool about researchers and smart people like Brene Brown is like they come up with this theoretical stuff that like people in the classroom have figured out like it's true. And like I would always tell teachers, well, I probably don't talk about it as much as I should, but I used to. And one of the things we talk about at open house when I was teaching and parents would come is like one of the most powerful driving motivators, compelling forces, I should say, in your kid's life is the fear of being humiliated. At this age, that is like one of the driving forces. And like knowing that, in all of my classes, when we got the year started, we would always do these crazy games and crazy activities. We rarely met in the classroom. We would meet in the cafeteria or the hallway, and we did the most ridiculous, silly stuff. Because my whole goal was built in those first couple of weeks to build till we all take on and intentionally embarrass ourselves enough where we can just be honest and open and vulnerable. You know, when you're making, sounds of animals, like one of the first things we would do, I'd blindfold everybody, and everybody gets an animal sound, and there's 2 of each sound, right? So there's 2 elephants, 2 donkeys, 2 dogs, and we got 35 kids, and they say, okay, make your sound and find your animal that matches you. And so they're all barking and squealing and, and growling, and because it's so loud, you can't really hear anything, and it's so ridiculous. You know what I mean? But everybody's doing it, and we blindfold to make it hard, but also so that way they're not looking at each other. There's no reason to be embarrassed. You can't even tell who's who. And like once you do that enough together, it's okay to make a mistake after that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I would have hated that activity.
No, you would have
hated it.
You would have loved it. Trust me. I would have got you there. I know what I'm doing. I'm a professional.
Okay. I think it would be fun to watch, but I would have been one of the ones that the late adopters to join in an activity like that.
I'll tell you one funny story is we did that activity and everybody found their match, and I got one girl with blindfolded. She's standing in the corner. She's going zzz, zzz, zzz. And I'm like, hey, what are you doing? She goes, I'm doing my animal. I go, what's your animal? She goes, wild bees. I said, no, it says wildebeest, not wild bees. But stuff like that, man.
That's hilarious.
Like when that happens, you know what I mean? Now we're laughing, we're having a great time, and now we're like ready to learn. I
love it.
I think that's one of the things when people are asking, like, well, I've got this one kid, and I just write them like they're asking like discipline questions, like classroom management or whatever they call it. Yeah, it's so hard for me to answer that. Like, what do you do about this? Like, that just wouldn't happen. What do you mean? What do I do? Like, that's the fact that, you know, it's not what the kid is doing right now. It's what's built up over the last 14 weeks of school, which led to where this is right now. It's not as isolated behavior. It's interesting.
I think having that sense of humor is so important. Like our son, he's been on a behavior plan since he was 3. And
how old is he now?
15.
Yeah. That's what I'm talking about.
But it is not because he has Down syndrome. It's because I married the funniest guy at the keg party.
There you go.
Whether or not my child had a disability, like I was going to have phone calls from the school. Like, did you know your child was doing? Yes. Yes, I do. You kind of have to roll with it. Like if they're not hurting anybody, they're just being silly. Like,
Right. Yeah. That's the cool thing about kids, man. I got one of those where I I hope you can't hear me, but this is he's like hilarious, like on the edge, like. But it's fun to watch him at 13 years old to figure out where the line is. Because the only way to find the line, you got to cross it. And then so like we're at the point, and he'll say it, and it's like, oh my god, and he goes, that was over the line. Yeah, over the line. Yeah. He's been on a behavior plan since he was 3. That's awesome. Hey, let's talk real quick about your real quick about your cadre. If I know this is like a living thing, and you're still in the process. And what's cool about it is I know I've done enough things like that where it's almost as if the goal and the point of the whole thing can shift with different personalities, and you know the dynamics of those relationships in the class and who shows up. But for right now, what would you say is your like if you could have like the big result if when people are done with it, what would you want them to say? What was the point? Like the big takeaway for them?
My big picture is to empower teachers, because I think that we're comfortable in the classroom. We're comfortable being silly in front of kids. But when we turn around and it's sharing our knowledge or our expertise with our other teachers, we shy away. And we want to, the term we use at TLC is stay small, like just have our own little classroom and just do our own little thing. Oh no, I don't want to stand up in front of a group of teachers and share this. Like I would love for the end of the year for teachers to say, I feel comfortable sharing and collaborating with people and just reaching out and supporting my colleagues and supporting my school and achieving their goals. I think that would be my overarching goal for teacher leader cadre.
Yeah. It's such an interesting profession, how for some reason, and I find it more true just listening to my friends and my neighbors. Well, I don't have friends, but these people that live around me is just listening to them talk about their jobs. There's so much of that it's built into their professions naturally. Where like in teaching, it's almost as if, I don't know, like we just don't, maybe we haven't given them the opportunity, or maybe because there's such a weird hierarchy already in place between like principal, assistant principal, counselor, teacher, student, and there's always this us them point in the high. Well, there's us, that's them at the central office and us at the campus, or those people in the front office and the administrators and us teachers and those kids. There's all this us and them back and forth. But it is interesting as a profession, really, that's not something that's traditionally nurtured, the collaboration and the sharing, that's where all the good stuff is.
Absolutely. I think learning from each other is the most valuable thing. I mean, you'd ask me about what percentage of my master's degree is used in practice.
Yep.
And I think almost none of it. It all came from learning from mentors that I've had. And I think the more confidence we can give each other about everything that you're sharing is valuable, and let's work together and build this positive thing that everybody wants to show up to every day. I think that would be a successful teacher leader cadre.
Yeah. I've had those jobs. and I've had the other jobs. Like I've had those schools where like I'm telling you, this sounds crazy to some teachers, but I would like wake up and, like wake up in the middle of the night and it'd be like 1:30 in the morning. And I was like, damn, I was hoping it was like 5:30. I could I was like so excited. Like I could not wait to get
That's a great job.
Those are amazing. But I've also had the other ones, just like, it's just so painful. And it always came down like to what was happening within the relationships among the teachers. I mean, kids were kids. Everywhere you go, there's the same kids are there. It's just, different names, but it was always about the relationship. And I think sometimes, and what I love about what you're doing is sometimes we totally give up ownership of creating what we want as a teacher because it's the principal's job and they create culture. When that's so wrong, man. I'm telling you, that's one of the biggest differences of those schools that I go to that are like phenomenal. When you show up and I'll talk to teachers, like they all take personal responsibility. When I ask them, hey, what's going on great at school? What do you love about? Well, here's what I'm doing. And they tell me what's going on. But at those schools that struggle, it's always, well, we have this new principal and he's just hands off. And what about you, man? Like, what are you doing? Like, you know what I mean? Like, what about your team? What about your hallway? What about you and your teaching partner? What are you doing?
Absolutely. I think saying positive things is sometimes hard because it feels braggy. But I don't want people to feel that way because when we share the great things we're doing, we're only helping other people. It's not braggy.
Yeah. You know what? And I also have this other philosophy, and especially with kids in my classroom, is one of the things we've lost over the years is we've lost a connection in our minds to find the good stuff. And it's based on this whole neuroplasticity concept where we've been completely rewired to find the salacious and negative and thing rather than the good stuff. And it's simply just based on stimulus and clicks and trying to get clicks and likes, and if it bleeds, it leads on the news, and people yelling back and forth, and even like regular programming, you got angry housewives or whatever. And because of that, it's really hard to find the good stuff, to recognize it and talk about it. It feels uncomfortable. And I don't think that was always the case. I think 20 years ago, that really wasn't the case. And, one of the things I do when I work with leadership teams at schools is, before we talk about this, I'll ask them real fast. All right, everybody tell me, you have 5 seconds. Tell me what you're most excited about in your job right now. Go. And they all stare at me and they cannot come up with anything. They're just stunned.
Really?
Yeah. I can't, give me a second. Because we don't do that enough. And one of the things I try to initiate in schools is these huddles, these hallway huddles, where people come together for just a few seconds at a predetermined time in the hallway for under a minute, where 4 teachers can come together and each teacher gets 15 seconds to talk about what's amazing going on in their classroom with a kid right now today. And we do that in the hallway out loud in front of kids that are walking past us. Because like when you talk about it and what's exciting and what you love, it just draws more, and then it just feels good, man.
I love it. Systems change. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
I'm so excited to have you come up in February. I think it's going to be a great event.
I know it will be.
And
all right. Hey, you got basketball today, huh?
I do, and my basketball star just walked down the stairs.
All right.
You wanted to say hi?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Hi.
Brother, are you wearing a tie?
Yes.
All right, let me tell you about my ties. I never untie them. I just loose them a little bit and slip them over my head. Do you do that too?
Yes.
Yeah, that's the trick, man.
Thank you for taking the time to listen to this episode of the EduLEADER podcast. And I want to make sure that you all know that we shared quite a few links and resources throughout our conversation. And I will put links to all of those in our show notes. But I really want to make sure that everybody knows how to register for the event in Kansas in February. We are having 2 events where Hal will be our guest speaker, and I'm sure it will be absolutely amazing, totally worth the time it takes to drive to Greenbush and find a sub and all the things that you amazing teachers do to make plans to be gone and take care of your professional learning. So it will be a great experience. February 6th will be at the Lawrence location, and February 7th will be at our Greenbush location. And to access that, you go to our Greenbush catalog, and that is at greenbush.org, and look under events and workshops. And I recommend that you register early because there has been a lot of excitement about having Hal come talk to us, which is completely understandable. I'm excited to have Hal come. So I look forward to seeing all of you, and I really recommend that you register early to make sure you have your seat. So thank you again for taking the time to listen.